Welcome everyone to La Chaîne Géopolitique, which is now, as you probably noticed, the new name of this geopolitical channel. So if you want to find the latest videos that I'm publishing, you can find out under this channel name. Feel free to subscribe to this channel. It's entirely free and you will just receive a notification when I will publish my video. So I would like also to apologize to all viewers of this channel for the absence of video over the last weeks. To be honest with you, I didn't find any inspiration. I didn't know about what subject to raise because, as you notice, the geopolitical events are very poor right now. We're only talking about this sanitary crisis, which has led to an unexpected consequence, the freeze of all conflicts in the world, or maybe nearly all. Let's review them. In Yemen, have you heard about something? Except this morning, where Houthi launched 2 missiles to Yemen. Over the last week, there has been no report about any bombing from the Saudi or Emirati army on Yemen. Freeze also of the Syrian conflict because due to the virus, the Syrian regime has decided to stop all hostilities and bombing on Idlib province. So as you didn't hear about anything on Syrian conflict because there are currently no conflict. The Syrian army has been demobilized actually to avoid the spread of the virus. In Iran, the authorities are now focusing on or fighting the virus, and so they decided to to use all the budgetary resources internally and not for external operation. And actually, for the only right now the geopolitical tensions are probably mostly in Venezuela, following the U.S. Justice Department decision to indict 15 Venezuelan officials about terrorism. So it means that any country which has now U.S. extradition treaty is bound to arrest those 15%, including President Maduro. So clearly, U.S. tries to ramp up pressure on Venezuela due to, let's say, the failures of U.S. sanctions over this last year, when actually the U.S. has decided to impose political sanctions on Venezuela. Those sanctions have failed to, let's say, undermine authority of President Maduro. If you notice, the self-appointed president Juan Guaido, which has been recognized by a part of the international community, has failed to impose its authority over Venezuelan administration. All financial resources are controlled clearly by the Maduro administration, and so clearly the US has decided to change its strategy towards Venezuela due to the failures of the initial strategy of US. So what's now the new strategy of US towards Venezuela? So last month, the US Treasury has decided to impose sanctions towards two Russian companies, which are Rosneft Trading and TNK, which are registered in Switzerland, in Geneva, and which are the subsidiary of the Russian state-owned company called Rosneft, which is probably the most or one of the most powerful company in Russia, which is the director is probably the most powerful person in Russia, which is Igor Sechin, who is probably the major counselor advisor to President Putin, and which has decided to help PDVSA, the Petróleos de Venezuela, the state-owned oil company from Venezuela, in order to give a financial lifeline to Venezuela. So what happened is when the US sanction has been imposed last year on PDVSA, those two companies have helped PDVSA to export its petrol to the rest of the world, and which explains that actually Venezuela has earned much more financial resources than over the previous years due to the help of those two companies. So addressing their failures, the US has noticed that clearly there is a loophole, if you like, on their sanctions on Venezuela, and they have decided clearly to sanction those two companies. And clearly, those sanctions which have been imposed last month have already borne their fruit, because right now the traditional clients of those two Swiss registered companies have decided to not buy. So this petrol that those two companies, Swiss companies, TNK and Rosneft Trading, have bought from PDVSA due to the US sanctions. So their traditional clients decided now not anymore to buy. And due to those economic consequences, the Rosneft has decided to simply sell its assets in Venezuela to another Russian company. We have just this information that the purchaser is Russian, and there is absolutely no doubt that it is actually the Russian state who has bought the assets of Rosneft in Venezuela. So as you notice, the effects have been immediate for Rosneft in Venezuela. The 1 month sanction have immediately produced effects, and right now, so it means that those new assets, which are under US sanctions, target directly not Rosneft but the Russian state. That's the, if you like, unintended consequence of those newly sanctions, US sanctions against Venezuela, and which create an indirect, if you like, conflict between US and the United States and Russia. And it will be extremely interesting to see what will happen, how those sanctions will affect the Russian state. Clearly, Russia is determined to stay in Venezuela, to continue helping financially and politically the Maduro regime, the administration in place in Venezuela. They don't want a change regime, and for that they are ready to do everything what it takes, if I can use this expression, to help Mr. Maduro. And so we see clearly that there is Venezuela is a territory of confrontation between, from one hand, the United States, and from the other hand, Russia. And we can add also a third actor, which is Popular Republic of China, which is helping a lot Venezuela. We learned that this morning a plane arrived in Venezuela to give medical equipment to Venezuela, like masks. 5 million masks have been given, not given, simply given to Venezuela to help them to cope with COVID-19 virus. And we see clearly that both countries, Russia and China, which have common interest in Venezuela against the United States. And clearly, it will be interesting to see what will be the strategy of those three actors on the Venezuelan territory. We'll continue to following the situation in Venezuela in the La Chaîne Géopolitique over the next weeks.